So good afternoon to my fellow group mates who are going to watch this video and also sir. So we're group 6 and my name is Carmen. So for my part, I'll be focusing on wiki 1, which is metaphysics. But first, let me introduce you to my group members, which is me, myself, Carmen, which I just mentioned, Zachary, Junhao, Qiaoyi, Jiale, Kenny, Jaden, and Raj. So what exactly is metaphysics? So in class, we have actually learned that metaphysics is actually a branch of philosophy that explores the nature of reality. But is that it? No. There are many things which include into the concept of metaphysics, which includes the relationship between individual minds, matters, the existence, space, and time, and also other fundamental concepts, sorry. So in summary, it deals with questions that cannot be answered empirically, meaning by numbers, but it requires logical reasoning and also speculation. But did you also know that there is actually a German philosopher by the name of Martin Heidegger has also argued that the traditional approach to metaphysics was being misunderstood of the nature of being. He stated the concept of being, which is the matter, is actually not a collection of isolated objects. It's not by objects, but it is more than that because it is dynamic, broad, and also those matters or objects are interconnected as a whole. So he argued that the traditional metaphysics has failed to recognize the interconnectedness of all the matters and objects, but instead it reduced them to being just a subject or an object. So to understand the aspect of it, it needs to be achieved way deeper engagement with individuals' experience, emotions, behaviors, and also one's existence. So the concerns and in relation to our topic and questions, we have identified and observed how mass media has a lack of morality, spirituality, disbelief in God by emphasizing, idealizing hedonism, consumerism, and lastly, materialism. So I have given two factors of mine, and my other team member will give you another two more factors, which is being required for the question. So my part would be TV shows. So I believe you have made or watched this video, which is Sex and the City. So why do I put this why do I choose this TV show? Is because TV shows have actually promoted hedonistic behavior. So as per my observations, many of us have watched movies, TV shows on Netflix at least once in their lifetime or any kind of movie. And TV shows like Sex and the City, Carrie Diaries, White Chicks, these are the few movies that people are able to relate to because most of the people has watched because it has been a topic to talk with between your friends, your colleagues, etc. So we are able to picture a vision of what am I going to talk about. So what these TV shows have in common is that it promotes hedonistic behavior. For example, excessive partying, drinking alcohol, getting drunk, hangover, and individuals being promiscuous, containing sexual scenes and inappropriate behavior. And I'm sure that most of the Western movies actually portrays hedonistic. They always show young kids nowadays who are going to get drunk, getting hangover. So this has been a culture. It has become a culture that actually invites audience to have negative impression on them. And not only you are giving people the chance to judge this impression or having this kind of negativity on them, but this kind of culture can be spread, and it is not something that is positive to be shared and um to be dictated off on in terms of everyone. It's not a good thing to be shared of. So in terms of the amorality, it's showing scenes that are inappropriate, such as alcohol consumption and sexual scenes, which are not supposed to be played. Lack of spirituality. In some movies, I have observed, or we can actually observe that ones will drink alcohol because they are stressed, because they are tired. But lack of spirituality also has argued that there's always more than one thing or more than one activity to be able to be relieved instead of drink alcohol. Because alcohol is not a good way of relieving stress or anxiety, because it leads to aggression. Based on what I've learned from my social psychology class, alcohol would lead to aggression, which is something that is not good. And I think most of the movies and viewers has missed out that point as well. So drinking doesn't mean that you're able to relieve stress entirely. It may bring some inconveniency and also some consequences that will lead to negativity impact later on. So disbelief in God. In some races and religion, they actually against alcohol and sexual activities because both of it are sin. For example, the Christian culture, you're not able to have sex before marriage. But TV shows nowadays just shows inappropriate scene, which kind of have disregard in God in the sense, which have disbelief in God. So individuals are not aware of it because it has been played in the movie, so they think that it is okay to do so. And in my own opinion, TV shows should promote positivity instead of promoting materialistic values such as wealth on individuals, social hierarchy, status, power, or even fortune. So next would be advertisement. So advertisement actually contains of the problem of consumerism and materialism. Now, think about it. Why market actually have advertisement? Why company actually focus a lot on advertisement? It's because it is actually a market-based capitalism where it produces and curates unlimited desires. So people might actually, for example, I give you an example. So let's say this bottle right here is called a moisturizer. Okay, so do we really need this? People may argue that yes, we do. It's an investment. But other people may argue that you just have to drink water, sleep early, eat healthily, cut off sugar drinks, and you can be beautiful. So why do we need to advertise this? It's because it curates unlimited desire to make people want to buy it. So it is actually an instrumental for identity building, social comparison, and status seeking. So I give an example based on this product. So for example, let's say this product may cost like probably $5,000, for example, but in reality, you don't need to pay a lot for this product. But let's say this product is $5,000. So what do it mean? What does it mean? So it means that if I have this product, means I'm rich. It gives me a social status, like the rich are able to buy it. So of course, I will be at the top of the social hierarchy. I have wealth, I have fortune. So it represents an individual. It makes them feel like, oh, I have the power. I am rich, so I'm able to afford it. And from people's perspective, when they look at it, it's like, oh, you are rich, you're able to buy this product. So it has been an instrumental for that. So the immorality will lead to brands like MS. It's a French brand which they are known for its Birkin. If you might not know, it's a bag that costs around like 400,000 Malaysia ringgit and 5,000 Malaysian ringgit, and even up to million ringgit, $1 million even. So why does this bag cost that much? It's because they have used crocodile and ostrich skin to make that bag. So what do I mean by that is they are actually killing a mass number of animals to create one bag to persuade the customer to purchase because of the rareness, because of the skin. It's ostrich and crocodile. It's not lamb skin or other leather or cow leather, for example. It's not that. It's ostrich and crocodile, which is rare. So because of this rarity, because of how rare it is, it creates the brand like MS to produce even more bags like this, which leads to killing of crocodile and ostrich, more crocodiles and ostrich to create one bag. And it lacks of spirituality is because they are using marketing tactics to fulfill individual wealth, status, and desire. And previously, I talked about TV shows, how people would take alcohol consumption as a part of relief, whereby you can actually have more activities to do instead of drinking alcohol. But same goes to this. You don't have to fulfill yourself with wealth, status, and desire. There are many things more that you are able to fulfill yourself with. For example, happiness, um, having a whole lot of family to eat with you, eat together, family happiness, family gathering, which doesn't have to cost money, but besides of purchasing the food and eating together, yes, obviously you have to pay money. But what I'm trying to say is that the kind of environment, the kind of atmosphere, which you don't need to spend billions or millions of dollars on one item to fulfill your wealth, to fulfill your status, to fulfill your egoism, to fulfill how one look at you. And next is leading to lack of disbelief in God. Because what I said right now is they are killing crocodile and ostrich skin. So you are killing innocent animals just because you want to fulfill yourself of having an Hermes bag, to have a bag that is made out of crocodile and ostrich, to show your wealth, to show your power, to show your status. But you are killing innocent animals. And some religion, they say that you are only able to kill animals for eating consumption, to make you full, but not for material problems, not to make it feel like materialistic, for example. So that is all for my part, and I'll pass it on to my another group member to talk about the other two factors. Thank you so much.
Today I would like to talk about the influence of global entertainment industry on promoting immoral behavior and how news media can promote atheism and skepticism. As the entertainment industry has become popular globally, industries such as the movie industry, entertainment and music industry often promote immoral behavior like the use of drugs, promiscuity, and violence. These immoral behaviors are able to create culture and that glorifies those behavior and normalize them among young people, which is a really bad thing. This is concerning because these behaviors can lead to negative consequences and can be harmful to individual and the society as a whole. In relation to the three factors, immorality, the entertainment industry often hires individuals who are considered as pretty, handsome, or really good looking according to the standard of the society. But it often neglects the shame others who are not that good looking. It shows a sense of immorality. They are only portraying and showing people who are identified as good looking, which can be damaging to people who do not fit society's beauty standards. Lack of spirituality is another factor to consider as a primary goal of entertainment industry. It's not only to promote the society's beauty standard, but it is also to promote wealth and status, which can lower a person's self-esteem. In contrast, spirituality involves a sense of purpose in life. And we shouldn't be comparing ourselves with the beauty standard that are surrounded by us. Instead, we should be ourselves and celebrate our uniqueness and be proud of who we are as a person, because every person in this world is different. Lack of disbelief in God is another factor in relation to the beauty standard, because everyone is God's creation and we are special in many ways. However, some individuals may have the belief in God which they disregard and continue to practice such comparison. Moving on to the news media, some news media outlets promote atheism and skepticism through scientific explanation for phenomenal and downplaying or ignoring the fact of religious belief. This can create a culture of disbelief in God and even spirituality, oh my goodness, which can be hurtful to people who rely on belief for personal comfort and guidance. An example of this would be if the content is a scientific study that contradicts with religion and beliefs. The media will not report the discrepancy between scientific finding and religious teaching. For that being said, it is immoral because there are certain aspects of the news which are not being covered. Through this immoral way of reporting the news, it creates and encourages skepticism and critical thinking, which led to a more atheistic worldview. Lastly, in conclusion, it is important to be aware of the influence of the entertainment industry and the news media on promoting immoral behaviors and atheism or even skepticism. It is important to be conscious of the message we receive from the news media or the other source of media that we are viewing our sources from. Once again, I would like to thank you for listening to what I have to say, and thank you for your attention.
Me and my partner Qiao are going to present Wiki 2, which talks about how anti-vaxxers uses postmodernist relativism to reject vaccination. Anti-vaxxers uses postmodernist relativism to argue on the need, efficiency, and safety of vaccines. To begin with, anti-vaxxers are afraid of having side effects from the vaccines. You could get allergic reactions, autoimmune disorders, and neurological damages from vaccines. There are many types of ingredients inside vaccines, such as mercury, which causes redness and swelling towards the place where the shot was given, aluminum salts, which causes dementia, microcytic anemia, and estromalacia, and formaldehyde, which is a highly toxic systemic poison towards us. However, anti-vaxxers do not consider the amount of ingredients in each vaccination shot. They only see the side effects it brings to us. Next up, anti-vaxxers question the effectiveness of vaccines. Some say the human body natural immune systems are better, and some says that the vaccines are not as effective as they said to be. They further claim that vaccinations can weaken the immune system and causes invulnerability to infections, which leads to sickness and diseases. Some concur that some vaccines that are newly developed and are still in testing, when injected into the body, causes many problems, so they prefer to not be vaccinated. And some investigations show that some middle and upper class people have some level of distrust towards the health authorities. From this point on, will be presented by my partner Qiao Yi. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Xiaoyi, and I will continue the last two arguments of Wiki 2, which is the safety of vaccine is uncertain. So anti-vaxxers are concerned that the safety vaccine is very uncertain and they might cause some serious adverse reactions like costumes and allergies or some autoimmune disorders. So they suggest that vaccine may not be adequate scientifically tested before that they are approved for use and that there are insufficient long-term data on their safety. So, from a postmodernist perspective, so it can be seen as challenging the idea that the scientific knowledge um, that they um, based on the empirical evidence and rigorous testing. So it suggests that um, uh, the the vaccine is uncertainty and disagreement on about the safety of the vaccines, and that the different perspective experience might lead to the different conclusions. Next is the vaccinations is also a method of personal preference. So, anti-vaccines uh, held the opinion that vaccination should be a very personal choice, that people should be allowed to decide for themselves whether or not to vaccinate themselves or their children. So they contain the laws that um, vaccination requiring vaccinations infringe on people's rights and freedom. So basically, you can see these arguments can be viewed as a cost testing of the notions that scientific knowledge should be applied to formulate policy from a postmodernist angle. So it advocates for the value that respect and of unique viewpoints and experience, even when they diverge from the general consensus of science. So, to summarize, well, the postmodernist relativism has been used by some anti-vaxxers to challenge and reject the scientific claims and knowledge about the vaccines. So it's also very important to note that this perspective has been widely criticized by scientists and public health and safety. So despite on the controversies um, surrounding the vaccines. So the overwhelming of scientific consensus that the vaccine are safe and very effective and necessary to protect the individuals and communities from the infectious diseases. That's all my part. Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon, sir. My name is Jan2023, and I'm going to be presenting on our wiki page project. I'm on wiki page 3, and my topic is decolonization. So before we get to the answers, let's get through the context and the questions. So moving on. So starting with the context. So the context shows that the context says that cultural globalization promotes ideas such as anthropocentrism, egoism, Eurocentrism, rationalism, secularism, and liberalism that are seen to be colonizing the minds and souls of Malaysians. So the question is asking us to list 4 negative effects of the ideas stated above. So let's get to the first one. I've chosen anthropocentrism and to talk about anthropocentrism and Eurocentrism and how it has its negative effects on our country and Malaysians. So anthropocentrism is the So anthropocentrism is the belief that humans are at the center of the universe and other living things are seen as just resources to aid humans. And that is what anthropocentrism is. So we can see that from the first one, from the first point, an Indian environmental historian named Ramachandra Guha claims that anthropocentrism is the primary cause of ecological crises. He has said this because the concept of anthropocentrism is actually very harmful to the environment and the other living things that are living there. So in Malaysia, anthropocentric beliefs have actually aided in the destruction of our environment, the loss of biodiversity, deforestation, and also pollution, which causes a lot of different harms to the environment. As we can see from a study conducted in 2021, an estimated of 47% of Malaysia's forest cover was lost between 1973 and 2018 due to one of the worst rates of deforestation in the world. So this is we have the deforestation has we have one of the worst rates of deforestation in the world due to the fact of human activities such as logging, turning forests into plantations and farms, and urbanization, which put human needs and demands ahead of those ahead of other species that are living in our country, our natural habitats such as our jungles, our rivers, and all sorts of stuff. In addition to that, pollution also shows that humans have no regard for the environment and natural resources. As a uh, as a research was conducted, an estimated of 0.94 metric tons of improperly handled plastic garbage was produced in 2016 alone, which makes Malaysia one of the world's top plastic polluters. And this is bad because plastic is a type of material that is very hard to biodegrade, which could take a few hundred years, and the effects of having plastic not biodegrading and being in our natural environment as waste can cause a lot of different toxic health illnesses in our lives. So the reason that plastic is one of the world's top polluters is mostly caused by human activities such as industrialization, transportation, and consumerism, which also is the same as the deforestation, puts our human comfort and economic growth ahead of the environment and the other species' health. So to recap, anthropocentrism is dangerous because it causes a lot of different negative effects, and the ones that I've talked about is deforestation and plastic pollution. So moving on to the next one, which is Eurocentrism. So what is Eurocentrism? Eurocentrism is the concept that all other cultures are inferior compared to the European culture. So basically, it says that in a hierarchy of different cultures, Eurocentrism is the belief that European culture is at the top of all the other cultures in the world, and and this causes Malaysia's cultural identity and legacy to suffer as a result of this notion. So, what does Eurocentrism cause? Eurocentrism causes the marginalization and erasure of indigenous knowledge and traditions, according to a Malaysian author by the name of Muzaffar Ibrahim. He says that it is the result of the educational system's Eurocentric orientation that causes these damages. In addition to that, Eurocentrism also aids in the lack of knowledge and respect for Malaysia's rich and cultural history, as there's been a lot of historical distortion of Malaysia's history, and it has been distorted and misinterpreted, which which puts our Malaysian history as a footnote in Western history, whereas they disregard the fact of our cultural and historical importances in our history. Other than aiding the lack of knowledge and respect for Malaysia's rich and cultural history, it also introduces stereotypes about non-European civilizations, such as the perception that we are savages or uncivilized. This all has been fostered by the belief of Eurocentrism. It has also fueled the prejudice and discrimination in Malaysia towards non-European civilizations. It shows this can be seen when we are on social media and we see people in the Western world or European world, such as that think that their countries are the best, and they see all of us as inferior to them than superior. So to recap on Eurocentrism, it one of the main negative effects is that it erases a lot of a country's historical and cultural past and says that we are below everything. Another thing that it does is it introduces stereotypes and prejudice against the non-European civilizations that say that we are backwards. We are maybe backwards countries, or the perception that we are savage or even uncivilized, which can cause racism and all these other things. So that's it for my part. Thank you for listening.
Hi, my name is Raj, and today I'll be presenting about decolonization. Now, under decolonization, under egoism, there are four negative effects that egoism will bring into the lives of Malaysian if Malaysians choose to implement egoism into our lives. Now, the first negative effect of egoism is that it would demonstrate that everyone is only concerned with meeting their own demands. This would make Malaysians to be more self-centric rather than people-centric, which is also one of the characteristics that you do not want in a leader. Next, ego damages relationships. As we all know, ego damages relationship, and it can affect your relationship with people. The third point is that egoism will cause Malaysians to be very agitated and easily offensive if they choose to implement this into their lives. Lastly, the negative effects of egoism is that moral education also holds that people's main goals in lives are to enjoy themselves and stay away from pain. This is one of the negative effect that egoism brings into our lives by diverting our attention to cheap or rather easy coping mechanism to pain. Next comes liberalism. Liberalism has produced a culture that overvalues individualism, causing social disintegration and a decline in civic responsibility. This would really affect the Malaysians if they choose to implement it into their lives, as they become too individualistic, like I've mentioned before. Liberalism will also bring about economic inequality in Malaysia, because the reason behind it is because liberalism, they do emphasize more on capitalism, and that is one of the bad effects of the economy. It would diminish the P40 group into, it could be a P60 if they choose to implement it into their lives. Thirdly, liberalism emphasizes on the individual freedom, and economic progress has contributed to environmental damage and climate change. And lastly, liberalism has prosperity to elevate Western culture and values at the expense of other cultures through anthropocentrism and cultural imperialism. This has been seen in many parts of the world where a culture of a certain country is diminished, and the Western culture is forefronted into the culture of that country. The fourth type of decolonization is secularism. Now, secularism can cause religious communities to be marginalized or even prosecuted in some nations. Secularism also promotes the loss of moral foundation. Thirdly, secularism can cause a person to lose that moral foundation. And lastly, a breakdown in civil dialogue and increasing political polarization may result from secularism, which isn't a good thing that we would want in our society. Lastly is rationalism. Now, this approach may be extreme in certain ways by denying access to things like taste, smell, vision, and sound. amongst other things. If we choose to implement it into our lives, we would rather be very imperialistic and very doubtful of things around us. The second thing is that many rationalists also subscribe to the idea of perfectionism, which does not exist or it's difficult to implement. Thirdly, rationalism is an excessive dependence on measurable facts may result from rationalism and restrict knowledge and understanding to only which can be measured and quantified. This is technically wrong because there are many things that cannot be measured and quantified. Lastly, rationalism also results in simplifying of difficult topics, the omission of crucial contextual consideration, the lack of subtlety in comprehension. That's all from me. Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Kenny, and today Jala and I will be responsible for presenting the human concept. So, first of all, what is cultural globalization? Well, cultural globalization can be defined as the movement of different ideas, cultures, meanings, and values across the globe. Cultural globalization is also a phenomenon that many Malaysians experience on a daily basis due to the advancements in communications technology. This is because technology allows for quick movement of information, which can be viewed by anyone with access to the internet with ease. The number of mobile phone users among the population is rising, especially during the pandemic, where a recently conducted handphone user survey 2021 by the Malaysian Communications and Multimedia Commission revealed that the engagement rate of Malaysians with their smartphones reached an all-time high of 94.8% in 2021. Some people argue that cultural globalization promotes a set of ideas and information that are threatening the identity, belief system, tradition, and ways of life of the non-Western people like Malaysians, whereas opposers of the argument claim that it broadens the human perspective of the people and promotes positive social change that would otherwise seem foreign to that particular country. Nevertheless, there have been efforts to undertake decolonization by advocating and practicing the human concept in the major religions of Malaysia, namely Islam, Buddhism, Christianity, and Hinduism. One of the ideas which all major religions in Malaysia have in common is the emphasis on education. In our class lecture on the human concept, we have learned that education is important as it helps us understand human nature as well as shape it. According to the Ministry of Education on the National Education Philosophy, education in Malaysia is an ongoing effort towards further developing the potential of individuals in a holistic and integrated manner so as to produce individuals who are intellectually, spiritually, emotionally, and physically balanced and harmonious, based on a firm belief and devotion to God. The purpose of education is to produce intellectual, competent, and prosperous Malaysians, where they can contribute to their families, the society, and their nation. Education is important as it helps Malaysians from being influenced by a number of ideals such as materialism, consumerism, secularization, Americanization, unilateralism, environmental degradation, moral decadence, and many more. These ideals may lead to a liberal secularistic mindset, conspicuous and ostentatious lifestyle, weak moral fiber syndrome, excessive outwardly orientation, and etc. According to M. Kamal Hassan, a balanced, holistic, and comprehensive education of the younger generation is a key factor for success, strength, and dignified existence as a community and as a nation. The author also believed that family institutions, the media, the entertainment world, the business world, and the political leaders should work hand in hand with teachers and lecturers to achieve the desired goal of producing kind and quality human resources. Furthermore, another aspect in which all major religions in Malaysia have are religious ethics. Ethics is an important part of religious teaching, as the objective of it is to develop and create morality inside human beings. Ethics deals with values, and in religious teachings, it depends on the theological principles or the authority of religions. For example, Christians learn and practice the Ten Commandments, which are: Thou shalt have no other gods before me, Thou shalt not make unto thine any graven image, Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain, Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy, Honor thy father and thy mother, Thou shalt not kill, Thou shalt not commit adultery, Thou shalt not steal, Thou shalt not bear false witness, and Thou shalt not covet. Although not every one of the commandments may seem relevant to us in the modern day, there are some of which can still be applied to in our daily life. Thou shalt not bear false witness is one of the commandments which is applicable to our daily life because cultural globalization has led to the mass sharing of ideas, cultures, meanings, and values across the globe. However, there are those who aim to deceive others for their own personal gain. In a world where viewer engagement is increasingly put before the truth, this commandment is especially useful in upholding the flow of correct and factual information.
Moreover, according to my own observation, and surprisingly, not eating cows is a religious belief that is shared by the two major religious Buddhists and Hindus in Malaysia. For the Buddhists, this restriction is only for people who worship Guan Yin, which is also known as observing the sound. Cow is considered a sacred animal and a holy incarnation of the goddess of mercy. Beef is also considered to be a hot food that can cause inflammation and certain health conditions. As for the Hindus, they consider killing beef as sin, and hence they too do not eat beef, which is totally different from Western culture, where beef is favored by most of them. And hence, having such religious belief will enhance the decolonization of when confronted with cultural globalization. According to a journal article written by Molly Davising, he stated that there are still some who are influenced and started taking up beef. And that's why believing our own religious is something that can help us to decolonize culture globalization. And lastly, the practice of Islam in Malaysia holds the identity of Malaysians. So why do I say so? Although 70% of the people in Western countries practice and believe in Christianity, most Malaysians did not follow but still remain in believing in practicing Islam, which gives us an unique identity as Christian, belief in acceptance of death and resurrection of Jesus. On the other hand, Islam believes that there is no God, but Muhammad is the messenger of God. By believing in different things from the Western culture, this gives us a strong sense of identity as we know what we truly believe in, even though it may differ from the Western, and helps in decolonization as we have something that we truly believe and trust, and we will not be lost and easily influenced by others' culture. In conclusion, the four major beliefs practiced by the four religions to enhance in decolonization in Malaysia are through education by learning human concept in class, abiding to ethics and create our own unique morality in us, follow the beliefs in each religious like not eating beef, as it is known as sin to be killing beef in both Buddhism and Hinduism, and practicing our main religious Islam so that the impact of cultural globalization will not affect the Malaysians so much. And I would like to say thank you to our teacher and our fellow classmates.